Good everyone, on today's video, and today we have a video on when to ground pound. This is something I've been getting asked quite recently, and I've been getting asked to do a lot more guide and advice videos, so expect that in the coming few weeks. So today we're going to be covering when to ground pound, and it's a very unusual topic because I don't really see people mentioning it, and well, it just so happened that a couple of nights ago, I was with the guys on Discord, and we ended up having two situations in two separate matches whilst I was flying two separate aircraft that we could discuss a couple of these topics in depth for the future. Obviously, this is the first one. The second one is target prioritization and priority targets. That they're pretty much the same thing. But I figured I'd do this one first because I see a lot of people getting confused on this. So, learning when to ground pound is quite key because at the end of the day, ground pounding is not only helpful to your team, but is also rather handy to get some points towards spading an aircraft. Don't worry, I'm going to be covering spading in an entirely different video. I'm going to be doing it in separate parts, but that's not for a while yet because I have a buttload of requests to get through. Um, and to put it simply, if I was to prioritize these, you wouldn't get sub requests for quite a long time, so I don't think that's fair. So we're going to be doing it the way I'm going to be doing it. I'm just going to be shuffling it around for the next few weeks/months. So like I said, covering winter ground pound is very important, and it also depends on what aircraft you're flying. So in this battle, I was flying the F4 F3 Wildcat. I figured I'd go for a change of pace because the guys wanted to fly some 2327 Japan and US. So after flying the Ki-44 for a couple of matches, I thought, you know what? Let's break out the Wildcat. I haven't flown this thing in donkeys. And I ended up having a pretty pleasant experience. Found the aircraft's overheating was horrendous, but that's a story for another day. Um, and we ended up having a situation in the match where we was able to figure out the best way to the best moment to start ground pounding. And the answer is actually rather simple. It's actually towards the end of a match is when it's best to ground pound. Now, of course, if you're playing something like a ground attacker like an IL-2 or a T-2S bomber, you typically want to rush the ground targets first, drop your bombs, and then get out. But that's pretty self-explanatory to most pilots. The problem is when you see fighters ground pounding halfway through the match and they potentially could throw the game because of that. And that's why I wanted to cover mainly fighters in this. And if you want a part 2 to this as to when to ground pound in attackers and bombers, please do let me know and I'll get around to it. But for the moment, I figured I'd cover this for fighters. So now that we've gone into a little bit of detail about it, let's jump into a replay and let's take a look at the match. So in this battle, I was teamed up with a few of my subscribers. I was with Army Chris 09, I was with Flight Sim Test, also known as the 010000101, which in binary is E. It's a running joke on the Discord. And also we have Italic Sphinx 207. That was my squad for tonight. Well, I say tonight. It's in the morning as I record this. It's 10:15 in the morning. I severely doubt it is in the evening. Anyway, commentary but jokes aside, this also proves how long I've had this Wildcat parked. Is because if you notice on the tail, I have the eagle head, and the eagle head is what I used to run as my main insignia back in the day in like 2016 when I was playing arcade. So as you can tell, it's a 20-minute, nearly 21-minute match, and this isn't a particularly amazing match. I mean, I get 3 kills, which is more than fair enough. But what I'm also going to point out is there's a pilot on the enemy team named Guard Grenadier, and a couple of matches ago, as far as I remember, he was in one of our matches in the Kai when I was flying a Ki-44, and I whooped his ass. And the thing is that I think he was afraid of me because I completely dominated him as far as I can tell. And I think personally it's a bit of fear factor that he recognized me, recognized my squad, and obviously now that we had Flight alongside us, we was a four-man squad, and that seemed to put the fear of God into him, which I can imagine. So for the moment, I'm gonna skip ahead and go towards the part of the match which is relevant. Obviously, for the most part, if you're playing a fighter, you still have to do your job. Now, I'm flying a aircraft that climbs quite slowly, aka the Wildcat, and I figured our best move was to go to the enemy ground pounders over here and take those out. So I let Chris choose which one he wanted. He wanted the LR2, so I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll go for the 110. This is something I'm also going to cover in the future, as I mentioned at the start, which is priority targets. If I was to be smart about this, I would have bounced the IL-2, and he would have gone for the BF-110. There's a reason for that. Now, I'm not saying that because I don't trust Chris to watch my back. It's because my natural instinct is to go for the plane that's tailing Charlie. But even so, he wanted that plane, and I thought, okay, that's fine. I removed the BF-110. He does get a shot into one of my ailerons, but it's no big deal. And of course, Chris is now dealing with the IL-2, but he is going to make a couple of mistakes doing it. He's actually going to jam his guns. He did manage to take out the tail gunner, and I believe the tail control, but he was a little bit trigger happy, and well, he does kill the IL-2 eventually. He manages to jam his guns, and well, that's just how it is, unfortunately. So a few seconds later, the IL-2 goes into the trees, and Chris makes his way back to base. And this is where I start re-climbing. Now, fair enough, the Wildcat is not exactly a great climber. It climbs slower than I get out of bed in the morning. That's why it's 10:15 as I'm recording this. Normally I'd be up at like 9, but I was lazy this morning. And even though I didn't get much altitude back, I still got some altitude back, and that's going to enable me to use a bit more energy to take out this yak, kill number 2. But as you can see, my team is doing pretty dang well, and well, Flight was actually working on a daily at the time, so I could have gutted this P-43 in a single pass, but Flight needed his daily, so I put a couple of shots in, and that's when he tells me to stop firing, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I'm waiting for him to get a crit. I said to him, you got a crit yet? He gets the crit, and I'm like, okay, weapons free. And this P-43 turns out to be pretty tanky, but I set a fire. The Spitfires go for the KS, which I really don't care because I'm not exactly flying the Wildcat to get kills or anything like that. I'm just spending time with my lads on the Discord. But the fire does stick, and I get my 3rd kill. Flight gets his assist, and this is where we can start ground pounding. As you can tell in the enemy team, we have 3 enemy fighters left. There's a BF-1, well, there's 2 BF-109 E3s and Guard Grenadier, and his Chinese P-43 Lancer. And this is where it's an appropriate moment to start ground pounding. And you'll be surprised how much I see people doing this wrong. Now, of course, if we had fewer players on my team, I would still want to assist in the long haul against those BF-109s. But of course, we haven't seen the P-43 the entire match, and that is what's important here. There's only 2 enemy fighters we have to be worried about for the moment. And in fact, in a few minutes, Flight's actually going to pop a blind hunt order, I believe it is. And he is actually going to locate where the P-43 is. Now, as you look in the kill feed, the Spitfire has just shot down the 2nd BF-109 E3, so that leaves us with just 1 BF-109 E3 and the P-43 that I mentioned. Now, another part I'm probably going to get asked during this is which targets to go for when it comes to ground pounding. Now, typically you want to go for the flashing targets. As you'll notice, I'm targeting the flashing pillboxes. Now, there are some exceptions to that, and that AAA piece in one of them. And not all aircraft in the game can kill pillboxes. They can kill, well, in fact, most aircraft in the game can actually kill pillboxes. That's an incorrect statement. Most aircraft in the game do not have the weapons to kill medium tanks, which is what you're going to see, that was close, on most maps. You're not going to have the luxury of light pillboxes like this. And when it comes to that, your best bet is to just farm the light stuff, like the AAAs, artillery, any passing by trucks, like that poor truck over there, which is about to have the last ammo. But that puts it into perspective what should be done first. Obviously, I didn't have the most amount of ammo after getting my 3 kills, but I still managed to clean up a few pillboxes to help my team and get a couple of bonuses along the way. Now we're going to skip ahead because obviously the order has just gone out for the P-43 and he is still continuing to space climb. However, there is going to be a point where the P-43 actually grows a pair, and as a result, we're going to need to cover when you should be paying attention. Because as much as the luxury is that you can keep ground pounding, you're still going to have to get ready to dodge things. And even though I put on the crappy 100 pounders, because I don't actually end up getting anything when he's not even a hit, this is a point to bring up, because now the enemy team is reduced to just the P-43. And this is a moment where it's really important to not only focus on ground pounding, but also keep an eye on your situational awareness. A lot of people that ground pound do not pay attention, and that is a easy way of getting yourself shot down, because you're not paying attention. Now, of course, I have a 4-man squad to keep my back up, because, well, I say because, it should be therefore, is the word I was looking for. Therefore, I don't need to worry about my situational awareness as much, because I've got a 4-man squad. I've obviously got myself and 3 other guys. If anything's going to happen to one of us, we're going to let the others know immediately. Now, of course, if you're playing solo, it's going to be far different. And playing solo is where you'll have to make sure to engage a ground target, take a quick look round, using the camera, take a look round. Is there anything near you? Is there anything in the vicinity? Or is there anything that's been spotted in the distance that you need to be concerned about for the future? That's the difference between a squad gameplay and solo gameplay, by the way. When it comes to solo, you pretty much have to do everything yourself because, let's be real, teammates are not the most reliable thing nowadays, but even so. So now I'm assisting the XP50 in ground pound pillboxes. He's actually going to take out that one in front of us. I figured I'd let him take the first pass, well, first. And this is where the P-43 is actually going to start to grow a pair. So at this moment, I believe Flight is coming in, and no, he's back at base. I think it's Sphinx that's actually spotted him, and there he is. Of course, my 100 pounders don't do shit because they're 100 pounders, but it's at this moment where if there is a fighter within this sort of distance, you need to immediately stop ground pounding and you need to immediately prioritize that target. This is something that I don't see a lot of people doing, and even though we're now down to a 3-man squad because Chris decided to hug a tree, this is still something that is rather relevant, and you'll be surprised how many people just get tunnel visioned on ground targets, and this is why it's also key to have a good squad if you're playing squads. If you're playing on your own, make sure to keep an eye around you every, I'd say, 30 seconds, if that. Every 20 to 30 seconds, just stop the ground pounding, take a quick look round, because you might catch something like this. Now, of course, I think this Guard Grenadier guy thinks he's low, he's in a Wildcat. Surely he's not spotted me. He's coming in behind me. Flight's obviously worrying, saying, Joe, have you seen him? I'm like, yep, just give me time. So it's at this moment I pop the flaps, force the Wildcat into a sharp turn. He goes for a shot, but misses by a country mile. Sphinx is going to take the head on, which it doesn't go particularly great for him. He does take a bit of engine damage, but he's okay. But now the P-43 is going to attempt to get involved, but the XP-50 teaches him a polite lesson in don't piss off my team, and don't piss off an XP-50. And that is the end of the match, and that's our victory. So like I said, it's not a case of you must ground pound the second an enemy fighter is dead and the enemy team looks like they're failing. Just because there may be only one player left doesn't mean you can't keep an eye out. They could go for you, for all you know. They may think you're distracted. Try to prove to them that you're not. All you have to do is make sure you're looking around every 20 to 30 seconds, and that can make the difference between life and death in this game. Because the situation can change from any point, really. But I hope that gives you some general advice. Obviously, I'm going to be working on more things like this in the future, so look forward to that. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on when you should be ground pounding, to put it simply. I'm probably going to title the video something like "What Other Advice When to Ground Pound" or something like that. I'll take a bit. My brain's always ticking, unless there's no caffeine. Jokes aside, and I will see you all on the next one.